Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning. Welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Marlene Cuellar.
And I'm Gavin Courtney.
And thank you for joining us this morning.
Yep. Nice and sunny.
That's right.
We're going to be getting a weather update pretty soon. And we'll get you updated and let you know all that you need to know about today's weather forecast.
All right, we're definitely going to see if it's going to be drying out a bit. There's quite a bit of rain yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't have the weather on the line as yet. Let's just go ahead and read the prepared forecast. So the general situation is for generally fair conditions expected over the country today.
Yep. And over the next 24 hours, we are going to see some sunny weather with some cloudy spells today and partly cloudy spells tonight. Showers and thunderstorms will be isolated.
Okay. And the winds are going to be moving from the east to the northeast at 5 to 50 knots, and that makes for a choppy sea state.
And looking at the temperatures, on the high temperature side, we've got 88 degrees along the coast, 94 inland, and 80 up in the hills. And tonight, we are expecting the lows to be 80 on the coast, 74 inland, and 68 up in the hills.
All right, and the outlook is for some cloudy spells with a few showers or isolated thunderstorms, mainly along the coast on Wednesday and over the southern districts on Wednesday night.
And we do have our tropical weather outlook as well. And we are looking at a low pressure system that's located about 900 miles west-southwest of the Cape Verde Islands, that has become better organized and is moving generally west-northwestward. This system has a high chance of becoming a tropical depression as early as later today. And elsewhere in the North Atlantic, the Caribbean Sea and the Gulf of Mexico tropical cyclone formation is not expected within the next 48 hours.
All right, and for local advisories, we do have a flood watch that remains in effect for low-lying and flood-prone areas, especially in the west and south of the country. Keep that in mind because while it is sunny right now, there still is the possibility of that isolated thunderstorm. We want to thank our forecaster, Cristel Rosales, for that update. And moving ahead from more weather to a bit of motivation. And we're going to get moving into our eye opener for this morning. And our eye opener, taken from dailyom.com, goes like this. Many of us find ourselves laboring under a label that has negative connotation, but this can be reversed. Unless we find a way to see the good in such a label, we may feel burdened by an idea of ourselves that is not accurate. It is important to remember that almost nothing in this world is all good or all bad, and most everything is a complex mixture of gifts and challenges. In addition, different cultures revere certain qualities over others, but this does not mean that these qualities are inherently good or bad. If you have been labeled, remember that all you have to do to see the positive side is to turn the label around. For example, you may be considered to be overly emotional, and the fact that you are perceived this way may make you feel out of control. But notice too the gifts of being able to feel and express your emotions, even in a world that doesn't always encourage that. You might begin to see yourself as brave and open-hearted enough to stay alive to your feelings. As you turn your label around, the light of your true nature shines to guide you on your way.
That's a really interesting message, and it's one that I like too. I think that one of the things that this is talking about is something that inevitably happens in all of our lives, and that's being labeled or being, at least when you have to deal with other people's perceptions of you, and you get called this one or you get known for this, and you might think, but I'm not like that, or do I really do that, or something like that. And on a certain level, if you do experience something like that, it can be a chance to look inward and to think, you know, well, why do people think that about me? What sort of energy or what am I projecting?
Yeah.
And then you can look at yourself, and then you can decide whether that label actually does apply and what you can do about it, because as it says, it's multifaceted. One word can be so complex, you know, you might, like one common thing might be shy. Let's just say that somebody that you're perceived as a shy person, or maybe very outgoing. But if you are perceived shy, maybe it could be because of the way that you speak, the way your body language, you know, your reluctance to do certain things. And if you get that label, then you can evaluate, well, am I a shy person? If I'm not, this is what I need to do to, you know, or maybe you say, well, I never realized that this is actually how I am, and it's not a problem. It might just be something that you can embrace, and you say, well, maybe I'm a bit more, you know, reserved, and I'm a bit more quiet, but it's fine because I can open up around, you know, whoever, or I can rise to the occasion when I need to. So it's definitely a tool for like self-assessment as well when you think about what other people's assessment of you is. But importantly as well, don't let it get to you if it's something that bothers you, because sometimes we do have that too.
Oh, of course, of course. I love what the eye-opener says. It's just a really important reminder that nothing and no one is all good or all bad.
Yep.
You know, that we're complex beings. This is a complex world. Oftentimes we see things through particular lenses that are oftentimes handed down to us from people who've had experiences or encounters before us. And, you know, as a way of kind of doing a quick judgment, we just go along with it. But it doesn't mean that that is exactly all encompassing of who that person is or what the situation is that you're facing. And, you know, I think of something as simple as, you know, if you work in an organization, if you've ever done a SWOT analysis, you've looked at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's one of the easiest ways to be able to see the things that you are great at can also be part of your greatest weakness. And it happens in organizations, it happens especially in us as humans. Your greatest strength oftentimes can be a part of your biggest challenge, and you have to be able to see the dimensions in it. And the very same way, your weaknesses can also be a source of your strength. If you're shy or reserved, you know, that makes the people who are connected with you and able to see the true you that isn't that isn't holding back as much, even more, that relationship is even more powerful. You know, I get that sometimes. I think when people see me quiet in the corner, it's like, she talks a lot. You know, I have different sides of myself, and it just depends on where I am or how I'm feeling or what's happening. So it's such, when you meet people, when you have made a fixed opinion about a person or situation, maybe one of the things that you can do is just be able to explore what are the other parts of them that you're not allowing yourself to see.
Yeah. Absolutely, that's like a really great way to look at it as well. And I think that going back to something that you touched on earlier, sort of goes back to one of my favorite quotes that I like to think, and some of the Game of Thrones fans are going to get this one too. But when it comes to sort of perceptions, and especially when it comes to, like, let's say perceived flaws or weaknesses, a lot of the one of the quote, or let me paraphrase by saying that it's like to wear your weaknesses sort of like a shield of armor, and just sort of, rather than trying to hide or you know, downplay something that's sort of negative, you should just bring it right out in the open, because a lot of the times you do hide it because you're afraid that people are going to talk or people might do X, Y, and Z, whereas if you come out in the open, you take control from the onset, you decide on what terms people are going to talk about this or deal with this issue, and it doesn't become a weakness anymore, then it becomes a source of strength, because then if you've gotten all of that out of the way, then there's nothing that people can go after. So, you know, a lot of people have insecurities and shyness, all of us do. But if we try to embrace ourselves, accept who we are first of all, and then draw on it as a source of power rather than weakness, then that also will project onto other people, and then you'll find that even what you were scared of or what you were scared that people were going to perceive as negative is probably going to be perceived as a positive as well. So
and it's a challenge.
Yeah.
It's a challenge, especially if you've gotten a bad label.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't help but think of sometimes when we see children growing up and we already tell them what they are. You're bad, you're rude, you're upstart, you're bossy, you're lazy. And especially with children, I think they're not in that place in being able to make the type of self-assessments that we can as adults. So oftentimes they just assume these labels and perhaps act out in accordance. So it's twofold. It's being able to recognize the labels that are placed on us, but being very careful not to place it on others as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So that is our eye-opener for this morning. And of course, we do have to get into our show, but before we do want to provide you with the latest numbers coming out of the Ministry of Health. We were told yesterday by Dr. Manzanero that there were 300 tests that were prepared that would be processed today, starting yesterday and into today. So we got those results after 9 last night, and the first 144 samples were tested, and of those 144, 23 tested positive. What we know so far, as of last night, is that 3 of the cases are in Belmopan, 2 are linked to previous identified positive cases in Belmopan, and other cases linked to San Pedro. 2 cases in Orange Walk, 1 from Santa Marta and 1 from Orange Walk Town, linked to a previously identified case, 1 case in Key Cocker, with no apparent link to any previously identified case for now, and 5 cases in Belize City. 1 that seems to have no link to any previously identified case, and the 4 others have been tied to previous positive cases. And the remaining of those cases are from San Pedro. So, and we did hear from Dr. Manzanero that, in fact, given the community spread in San Pedro, they wouldn't go as far into details as to tying which new positive cases tied to which cluster, because it seems to have spread significantly. And speaking of that situation in San Pedro, we did get some information from the Ministry of Health yesterday regarding monitoring yourself, depending if you have been to San Pedro after mid-July. Yeah.
Yes, and if you've, and in addition to that, there are certain places even in San Pedro. For instance, if you've been to the Alir nightclub, one of the places we're saying, or the Medina's construction site, were places if you are feeling any symptoms, or if you perhaps know that you've come into close contact with somebody who may have tested positive, then you might want to contact the ministry at their hotline, 1-800-MOH-CARE, as well as to continue monitoring yourselves for any signs and symptoms. That goes countrywide, of course. And of course, we will keep you updated on the latest figures. And as the cases progress, one of the concerning things about some of the latest cases is, of course, that some of them that are off the island of San Pedro do not have links to other positively identified cases. So, of course, the big concern is whether and to what extent there is community transition in the rest of the country. And, of course, we're going to be keeping you updated regarding those figures and the latest numbers coming out of the ministry. And, of course, what protocols or directives that are going to be issued to keep, by the government of Belize in order to maintain, the steady numbers. But of course, we have to take this opportunity to remind you once again to be very conscious and to practice all of our social distancing initiatives. That's, of course, washing your hands, keeping your distance from people of at least 6 feet, not touching your face, doing and wearing your mask, of course. So all of the recommendations that have been there from the outset, we encourage you to follow them because, as we know, we are living with COVID-19 in our presence, and it's the best that you can do to keep yourself and others safe.
Absolutely. You know, and we keep on monitoring. We understand that there are people who are very concerned at this time. We all are. I think it's a matter of one, not wanting to get sick for yourself. Two, you think of the vulnerable people in your family, people who have asthma, people who have underlying conditions, the elderly. We know how much they are vulnerable to this particular disease, and so naturally we are all concerned. There was a call from the Ministry of Health yesterday as well, talking about being able to not gossip and to really to stigmatize persons who are positive. You know, we've seen some people come forward, and I've been saying this, and I think it's critical to be able to mention. I think I'm proud of them. I think it's a great thing that they have done to be able to come forward and say that they're positive. But I also want to be careful to say that this is not necessary. It's helpful. And it's helpful if they are comfortable doing it. But there's no requirement that says that you have to disclose your medical history or data to anyone, especially the public. So you have to be patient in being able to get, if you have come in contact with someone, that the Ministry of Health will get in touch with you. Please don't be spreading rumors or gossiping or criticizing people. You know, Gavin, I tell people, we've all caught a cold.
Yeah.
You know, we've all at some point caught a cold. It's the same thing. You catch it in the exact same way.
Yep.
So it's not like somebody's going out there maliciously getting themselves infected with COVID-19 or maliciously going out to spread it. But in this time, we have to be extremely conscious of what we're doing and our own individual actions. So the social distancing is critical. Washing your hands, it's critical. You know, I still struggle with not touching your face because that's such an important part of it as well. Wearing your mask. Remember, masks are really one of the community-minded efforts that you do. I wear my mask to protect you. You wear your mask to protect me. So if someone is wearing a mask around you, it's because they're respecting you. You have the obligation to do the same. So I think that we have to move away from looking at who has, you know, and what they did, and focus more on empathizing with them.
Yeah.
You don't want them to have a terrible illness. You don't want it to get severe. Imagine how scared they are of who they pass it on to. They have loved ones they're scared about. It just means that you have to have some kindness during this time. And if you are positive and you are facing this type of stigmatization, then you do want to, and you need some help to be able to process it and maybe get through this time. There are hotlines available that you can call to be able to get some assistance in being stronger during this time. Mental health professionals are available at the public health clinics. They're private persons you can work with, maybe just to help you through at this time. And we really do wish all of the people who are positive a speedy recovery, and hopefully they don't develop severe symptoms.
Absolutely, we do. And one more thing on ending the stigma, it is very important not to criticize any of the persons who have come forward with their status, as Marlene said earlier. And it is important as well that if you are experiencing symptoms, or if you have come into close contact with somebody who you know to be positive or is highly likely to be positive, we do, of course, encourage you to stay home and, of course, contact the ministry. And don't move about as if things were normal, because we do not want, and this is what we don't want, not because you may be fearful of getting testing or of testing positive, or you don't want to contact the ministry, or you're scared that you yourself may face some of that discrimination. Please remember that at the end of the day, it's the best you can do to keep yourself and others safe. You don't want to be a source of spread in the community. So at the slightest inkling that you have that you may be positive or that you've come into contact with somebody who may be positive, please, one, of course, pay extra attention to the social distancing measures that you should put into place, and two, at the earliest sign of any sort of illness, please contact the ministry and keep Belize safe.
And at this point where we're seeing cases popping up all over, all over for now, it's just safe to assume that any person that you interact with may possibly be positive for COVID-19, and you just have to engage with them in that manner. So it is upon us to do our part as well. I hear the conversations that are taking place. I know some people are clamoring for a countrywide lockdown. I think that's a conversation that may unfold more over the next few days. But before that, all the lockdown does is tell you that you can only move if it's absolutely essential. You can practice that on your own. You don't need a lockdown to do it. Yes, it will help for those who don't want to follow the rules. But in terms of protecting your own self at this time, just limit where you need to go and be careful about how you interact with other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's where we are with the COVID-19 update for today. They are going to be processing the other half of that batch. We expect that we'll get those results sometime during today, and we'll be able to share that with you. You'll look out for those results. They'll be on our News 5 Facebook page. As soon as we get them, we will share them with you. But we got to get moving into our show.
Yep, and we've got a lot of interesting conversations lined up today. Our first conversation, we are going to be speaking with representatives from Beltrade and the government of Belize, who are going to be giving us an update on the MSME, that is micro, small, and medium business support program. So we're going to be talking to those representatives all about where that has been. Of course, that should have gone into effect on the 1st of August.
All right, and the second part of the show, Spotlight Initiative in Belize. So this is an effort to be able to respond to the situation of violence against women and girls in Belize. We're going to get the details about what Spotlight Initiative aims to do to be able to alleviate the situation that we know exists in our country.
And for our third conversation, we know that the opening of schools has been delayed, but some parents are still considering homeschooling their children in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. And we are going to be discussing homeschooling protocols with representatives from the Ministry of Education for our third conversation for today.
All right, and we're going to close off with another edition of Kids Time. And Dr. Binock started off this week by teaching the children about different animals. Today, they're going to find out about weird animals. So you definitely don't want the kids to miss that. That's going to be in the close of our show. What we're going to do now is actually move into a birthday shout-out. Today, we are saying happy birthday to
Danielle Fuller. So from all of us at Open Your Eyes and Channel 5, Danielle, we wish you a very, very, very happy birthday and many more. We hope you enjoy today a lot.
And we'll take that break now. When we come back, we're going to get some more details about the MSME support program. So please stay tuned.
In these challenging times, the one thing that is certain is that the Belize Bank Limited is here for you. There is nothing more important than your health and safety. And we continue to make every effort to make banking safer for you. Our staff is working around the clock to make sure you can do your banking conveniently 24/7 using our mobile banking app and online banking and keeping ATMs up and running. We value your relationship with us and are here to provide the support you need. First responders are also out there 24/7. Thank you, healthcare workers, security forces, firefighters, caregivers. You are all appreciated. Stay safe. We will get through this together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
With Smart's Loyalty Rewards program, you have tons of rewards waiting to be claimed just for using prepaid services. Now, let's get those rewards. But first, we need to download the Smart Belize app from Google Play or the Apple's App Store. Open the app and click Register. Then click Get Activation Code. You'll receive an SMS. Now enter your number and the code to activate the Smart app. Open the app and rewards are now accessible. In My Account homepage, you'll see how many stars you have and how many you've redeemed. To see a list of rewards available, just click the Go to Rewards button and let's start redeeming. With My Rewards, I'll redeem 140 stars for 1,000 megabytes of data for more TikTok uploads and 60 stars for 75 SMS. It's that easy. You can also get extra on uploads with your stars by just clicking Activate, and the next time you put in credit, you'll get your reward. So remember, just for making calls, texting, and using data, you get free reward points that you can redeem using the app, all from your fingertips. Smart, your full-service telecom provider.
Streaming made easier with NextGen. NextGen's internet and MyTV packages makes fast streaming even more satisfying. Our new MyTV Connect, MyTV Sports, and MyTV Star package gives you the power to stay up to date, enjoy more family time, and share the excitement with our beloved sports fans. Conveniently, affordably, and now instantly to all.
Today's COVID update is brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price but stay for the service.
And we're back, and we're moving into our first conversation for this morning, where we are hoping to get the latest as to the rollout of the second phase of the unemployment program, as well as an update on the MSME support program. Joining us via Zoom this morning, we're joined by Honorable Dr. Carla Barnett, who is the Minister of Labor, Local Government and Rural Development, and Dr. Leroy Almendarez, who is the Executive Director for Beltrade. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Marlene and Gavin. Good morning.
Thank you both for being able to join us this morning.
It's our pleasure.
So I'm hearing you, Dr. Almendarez.
I'm glad to be here.
Okay, great. Making sure that you're still there, Dr. Barnett. So this is
Yes, I'm here. I'm having the camera with the video.
Okay. So we're about a week in since the start of the second phase of the unemployment program, as well as the rollout of the MSME support. And we know that there have been some questions and concerns. Let's start off with the unemployment program. Dr. Barnett, let's go through the ground rules as to who can apply in this phase.
Okay, the bottom line is that you can apply if you have lost your job because of COVID. That's the bottom line. If you have lost your job because of COVID, whether you're a worker working for a company for somebody else or are self-employed, you're eligible to apply. You're a government pensioner or a social security pensioner or a recipient of Boost and programs such as Boost from Ministry of Human Development, then you're not eligible to be approved. So you have to bear those requirements in mind. But the most important thing is for you to be aware of. You are eligible if you lost your work, your source of income because of the economic impact of COVID.
And can those who applied in the first round reapply in the second?
Yes, if they are still unemployed, they can apply. If they have gotten work, then they ought not to apply. So if you're still unemployed, you are approved in phase one, that's not a barrier to you applying and being approved in phase two. Many people in the tourism industry in particular are still unemployed because of the impact of COVID. So having been approved in phase one is no hindrance. You just have to still be unemployed.
And for those who want to apply, can you also shed some light on the type of the relief that they will actually receive if they are approved?
It's the same relief that was approved in phase one. Persons who are have been laid off or self-employed and have lost their source of income. It's $150 every 2 weeks for a period of 6 weeks. Sorry, for 6 payments. That's 3 months.
Now, there have been some challenges that we saw in the first phase in being able to get the relief funds out to those who were approved, and also some information that people were asking about why they weren't approved or why they never got a response. Can you respond to those?
We had many people who applied in the first phase who did not provide adequate information. We could not reach them. Sometimes their telephone numbers were wrong. It became difficult to reach many people. But we did approve 45,000, a little bit more than 45,000 people got assistance in the first phase. And there were a few challenges in terms of banking information. We went through a process of trying to rectify a lot of that kind of erroneous information that stood in the way of us completing payment. And I believe we are in the final phase of paying out everybody who was approved, which will be done by top-up cards. All the top-up cards are now completed and ought to be ready for distribution as of yesterday evening. That was my information yesterday evening. So as of today, all remaining persons ought to be able to collect the last amount of the top-up cards that were produced.
So, I mean, that's a pretty long time that they've been waiting. What's been put in place for the second
well,
phase?
Marlene, let me tell you, in comparison with what large countries have gone through, it's not a long time. Yeah. In the US, for example, 2-3 months people have been waiting. Yeah. Started this program in the beginning of April, May, June, July. We're in August. This is the end of the first phase. We're going into the second phase. Mm-hmm. Yes, we had challenges, but the challenges to the total that we handle are really not that great. And the group of persons who were involved in doing this have really been going beyond what would normally be expected. So yes, it was delayed, but delay is relative.
But I mean, the sheer volume of processing the applications, I'd imagine, would be very time consuming. So I was saying that delay in the first gives you some insight as to some of the challenges that may prolong the process in the second phase. So what's being implemented this time around to just be able to cut down on some of that?
The largest challenge was input error by applicants. We had errors in social security number, in date of birth, in sometimes striking the wrong key when you're inputting your own name. And so what you will find when you're applying this time is the first screen will require you to actually have to put in everything accurately. Your identifiers will have to be absolutely accurate. You will have to type in whatever is on your social security card. And if you put it in wrong, you just will not be able to go to the actual application, of inputting the actual application. And so we tell everybody, make sure your card is beside you, put in your number correct, spell your name as it is on the card, and you should have no difficulty. And we should be seeing much less of that personal identification information going in erroneously this time. That was the single largest error. We also had a lot of people who inputted their banking information wrong. And there again, we've made some improvements. We've actually pre-formatted how the account information should be going in for every single financial institution, credit union, and so there's a lot more guidance in terms of inputting all of that information this time. So we should be seeing a lower degree of input error, and we should be able, therefore, to process much faster with a less degree of rejection of payments.
Mm-hmm. Now, looking at those who did not qualify from the first round, what can you tell us about that? What are some of the reasons that people were deemed ineligible for the unemployment relief?
Mainly, well, you have the categories of persons that would not have been eligible, such as pensioners. So setting that set aside, we had a huge volume of persons who really just sent us a name and a bank account number, no information on employment, no information on what they were trying to do or used to do to earn a living, and no way to get back to them, and we couldn't process those for obvious reasons. We couldn't process those. So those, we had maybe about 25,000 of that of that kind of application that was submitted, where we had no information to be able to verify who the people were or where they were or who they work for, if they worked at all, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And are you expecting the same sort of volume of applicants this time around?
Well, we are expecting a large number of applicants. I was checking the portal just now, and we went over 50,000 night. We're still seeing quite a number of persons who are putting no employment information in there. So it will take time for us to verify and vet those persons. We're getting a lot of persons who are self-employed who are not telling us as well what they used to do. And it becomes a difficulty because it is an unemployment relief program. It's not the kind of program that the Ministry of Human Development does, in which their way of determining who is eligible is different. This really is about helping people who have lost their jobs, and we've expanded it to helping businesses to stay alive so that people don't lose their jobs. But it's an economic plus program.
And I asked that because, you know, apart from the technical or whatever issues that people may have had even inputting, on the ministry side, I'm wondering if it was just a challenge having to evaluate and vet just the sheer numbers of applicants. Dr. Barnett?
Yes, it's challenging. Are you hearing me? Yes, it is challenging, and it will be challenging as well in this phase. But you have to go through it because it's required and because people do need the help. And we have to make sure as much as possible that the help goes to people who actually need it, because it's not an infinite amount of money that's available. So we have to be careful in doing the best that we can in ensuring that it reaches where it is supposed to reach.
Now, the second phase also comes, and we can get Dr. Armendariz in, with an employee retention program. So this is a new element, I'm sure, that you want to be able to have people, employers and employees, understand. So how does it work? The $7 million that's been earmarked for employee retention, is the application made by the employer through the MSME support program, or is it made by the employee?
Hi, good morning, Marlene.
Good morning.
Good morning, Marlene and Gavin. I presume that question you said was to me, but maybe what we can do here for the benefit of the public is just to provide some information. And first of all, it's to reiterate what Dr. Barnett has said. It's an unemployment relief program. It just simply means that the micro, small, and medium enterprise aspect of it is now integrated. And there's a reason for that. I mean, after a survey was conducted, and not only that, globally it shows that about 70% of employment is in fact from the micro, small, and medium sector. So if this sector was not to be, if there was not a stimulus provided in this case, the challenge would be greater, because then more people would be applying for the unemployment relief. The MSME program, or the MSME aspect of it, has three components. There's a micro component where 2.5 million is allocated, and each approved applicant will receive 2,500 as a grant. It's for micros, it means that you are between 2 to 4 employees, including the employer. Self-employed people, as Dr. Barnett indicated, would have to apply under the unemployment relief program, so it means they cannot apply here. The 7 million is a wage subsidy. And the wage subsidy simply means that what we are requesting here is that it's really retention of employees. And so therefore, let us say due to COVID, there was a contraction in terms of the number of employees, but the employer decided to bring those because they might have been furloughed or what presently exists. It means that it would be required that you keep the social contribution payments up to date. So you can apply, but the disbursement of funds go hand in hand with what Dr. Barnett has been saying, because this is basically almost, really almost an expansion of that. And then you have a 5 million loan program. There's a loan aspect of it. And the loan aspect of it is 5 million, but this is really allocated to small and medium enterprises. And to be considered a small enterprise, you must have employees between 5 and 19, or 5 and 20. And for medium enterprises, it's between 21 and 51. So if you're a small enterprise, you can apply for a loan, and the loan is kept at $15,000. For the medium enterprise, it's $25,000. Now, for the first 12 months after the disbursement of funds, you don't have to make any repayment, because this is actually a part of recovery. Yeah. And so within those 12 months, it's to put whatever program you have in place. In fact, you notice that quite a number of these enterprises have actually pivoted away from their core competencies and diversified to meet the needs of, created by COVID. It will be, so that's a 12-month grace period. And then 24 months after that, in other words, repayment starts in the 13th month, and you have 24 months in which to fully repay. Yeah. So you have 36 months in which in which you are given to repay this loan, and the rate is fixed at 3%. The money will be disbursed through the National Bank of Belize, but there is a process where after these applications, so application process, or the period, is from August 1st, it was launched, up to August 21st. On August 21st, the program, the application process will shut down, and on August the 22nd, the evaluation committee will start its evaluation process. And this process, because you want this, there's a 90-day window, you want this money to be disbursed as quickly as possible. So we're expecting to serve 1,000 micro enterprises out of the 2.5 million, since each will receive $2,500. Yeah. And whatever challenges they might be facing, we have, as Dr. Barnett would also say, we have dedicated lines, we have dedicated emails. Yeah. So for example, the email is belizemsp@covid19.bz. You email, and that's a dedicated, someone mans that email, and we make sure that we respond as quickly as possible. We also have a toll-free number, 0800 call MSP, or 0800 225 5677. Or 613-7342.
And that helps people.
Right, and at this point in time, Beltrade is providing, the support. So a person who might have been experiencing problems in filling out the application, we are providing, that back-end support, where whatever challenges you're facing at this time, uploading, or if you have a problem with your application going through, we are providing that assistance. So all of that assistance is being provided at this point in time, because what we want is that all applications that are full, and remember, we are catering in terms of micros. Yeah. We're catering to formal and informal.
Yeah. That, I wanted to ask a bit about that, because let's try to break this down separately. So let's talk about the wage subsidy part first. What you're saying is, if you're a one-man shop, if I am alone when I go to cut yards or anything.
The contribution.
Yeah.
And so making sure that is kept up to date. So let us say that you had furlough. Let's use the word furlough rather than terminate, because you could have terminate, but you made a termination on the premise that if things were to change, that I would re-employ you. For example, in the United States, sometimes what they do, I will furlough you.
Yes.
So at some point in time, so I can still keep your contributions up to date. Now, under this program, if you rehire the furloughed employee, you brought them back, they now become a part of the list. It's simply